To our viewers, Antonio Guterres, UN Secretary General, is speaking live from Amman.
And the nature that is absolutely fundamental to preserve the life of the people in Gaza. So we have been insisting on the need of this ceasefire. In the beginning, our voice was relatively alone. But now we are seeing more and more the international community recognizing the same. Recently, the European Union, for the first time, was claimed the need of a pause leading to a sustainable ceasefire. And we have today in the Security Council a resolution in which a ceasefire is required together, but not in a linkage with the release, the unconditional release of all hostages. And we have also always claimed for the need for that release. So I see a growing consensus emerging international community to tell the Israelis that the ceasefire is needed. And I also see a growing consensus. I heard it in the US, I heard it from the European Union, not to mention, of course, the Muslim world, a growing consensus to tell clearly to the Israelis that any ground invasion of Rafah could mean a catastrophic humanitarian disaster. And I strongly hope that this consensus that is emerging in the whole of the international community will make Israel reflect and avoid what could be a dramatic tragedy.
Thank you so much. Okay. Yes, Reuters over there.
Do you see the crisis over UNRWA receding?
Can you raise your voice?
Sorry?
Do you see the crisis over UNRWA receding?
The crisis over?
The crisis receding of UNRWA. UNRWA's crisis, is it receding?
There is a very strong effort that we are making in order to address the natural problems and difficulties that UNRWA had. UNRWA has been systematically underfunded, so we need to strengthen it in different aspects. And I think we are moving in the right direction with the investigation, with the inspection, with the measures that are already being taken by the Commissioner General. But on top of that, I see more and more countries recognizing the essential role of UNRWA, and even several of the countries that have suspended the funding have already restarted that funding, and others are telling us that they hope that the result of the investigation and the result of the review will lead to the reestablishment of the funding to UNRWA. It is with hope and with deep conviction that I see the future of the organization.
Thank you so much. Do you have any time for more questions? Or
The last question that was not foreseen.
Please go ahead.
We have another press conference with the ministry.
رح أسأل اليوم إنه مبادئ الأمم المتحدة اللي على أساسها إنشاء الأمم المتحدة تم إلغائها أو أعدمت بسبب هذه الحرب. اليوم أنا السؤال بدي أسأل كم رسخت الحرب الإسرائيلية على قطاع غزة تأكيد على اليوم ازدواجية المعايير الازدواجية في الإنسانية والأخلاق على ما يمارس على أهالي القطاع. لم نكتفي فقط بإبادة جماعية أو حرب أو قتل أطفال المدنيين. لحظة ترسيخ أنسات كم برسخ هذه الحرب ازدواجية المعايير وأيضا ازدواجية الإنسانية والأخلاق في العالم العربي وفي المجتمع عفوا ليس في العالم العربي في المجتمع العالمي بشكل عام. كمان السؤال اللي جدا هو مهم، ما هو العدد المطلوب اليوم من الأطفال والنساء الذي يجب أن يقتلوا لكي تقف الأمم المتحدة فعلا لتقوم بواجبها وبدورها؟ شكرا.
Well, I didn't understand, but it is the biggest question I've ever heard in a press conference.
Well, in light of the United Nations principles that were established to guide the United Nations in its work, we have seen the abolishment of these United Nations values due to the war. So it is related to the question is related if like Israel has, cemented that there is only double standards in the international community. There is dehumanization. There is also what is being practiced on the ground is not a war, but also a genocide. So all of these are leading to double standards in the international community arena. And the question is related: how many children and women should be killed in order for the United Nations to intervene?
There might be double standards in many places around the world. There is a place where there are no double standards, in the Secretariat of the UN, under the authority of the Secretary General. For us, what matters are the principles. And the principles are UN Charter, the principles are international law, territorial integrity of countries, but also international humanitarian law, the right of self-determination of peoples, including the people of Palestine. And in relation to those principles, we have maintained our clear positions in all circumstances. We were very loud and clear when we denounced the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. And we are very loud and clear when we denounce the violations of international humanitarian law that are taking place in Gaza, as we denounced the attack of Hamas in the 7th of October. Our principles are the same, and we have no double standards. Unfortunately, in the world, not everybody can say the same.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You can ask in the Foreign Ministry. Thank you.
You've just been listening to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres speaking live from Amman. He's currently touring the region. He was in Egypt yesterday. We also saw him inspect the Rafah border crossing. This is, of course, one of the main border crossings through which aid goes into Gaza. The context of this, as will be known to many of our viewers, is that very little aid has been going into the Gaza Strip over the last 5 months, really since the war has begun. Such that the IPC, the body tasked with looking at food insecurity, warned just last month that famine was imminent in northern Gaza and that the entire population of Gaza was at risk of famine. So that is the context. Antonio Guterres saying yesterday the international community needs to be on the right side of history, and it is time to flood Gaza with international aid.